Hello there, listeners. It's Open World Chat again. I'm your host, John Odom, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark Card. Hey, Mark.
Hey, John, how are you? I think we got a good one today.
We do often go to our lists. Sometimes they're top lists. Sometimes they're just conversations of movies we like. Actually, that's more often. But today we've got a list. We have a top 20 list. Top 20 list of things to watch in the Trump era. They'll get you through the Trump era. Hopefully you'll get through the Trump era with them, unless you need Medicaid. But that's another story. We're going down. We each put together a list of 10, and I am happy to say there were no duplicates. So you've got an interesting, eclectic list to listen to of movies to get you through the Trump era, if that's even possible. Now, Mark, I'm going to say, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. See if you agree with me. I feel like, uh, at least with mine, there were four basic categories of
Yeah.
movies that these fell into. There was the hope, there was the inspiration, there was the catharsis, and there was the escape. Although I think I bailed on all my escape ones. No, I still have an escape one, definitely. Uh,
Let me write these down here. Hold on. So there's hope.
Hope, inspiration, catharsis, and escape. Although maybe we should add education to that now that I think of it.
Yes.
So what do you think? How's that list? Does that cover what we're looking for and what we need in a historical time like this?
Oh, I think, yeah, I think a lot of these things are really important. And I think those are the categories that they fall under. What I basically focused on was, and this will show my bias, I'm happy to show my biases, is guys, you may not believe this and you may think it's hyperbole and you may think it's, crazy, but what we're talking about here in the Trump era is fighting fascism. I know people don't want to believe that's true. I don't want them to think, oh my God, it's America. It can't possibly happen here. This is where we are, guys. And to be clear, we're not in 1939, 1945 fascism. We're in 1933 fascism. So hearing how to cope, how to deal with, how to counter, how to resist is really important, because that's the way it is. I mean, literally, we have scholars of fascism, political scientists and historians who have fled the country because they think it's inevitable. They think we are going to get there. And I think the best way to deal with that, of course, is to fight it.
Yep, yep.
So
No
we do
argument here.
1930. So we stop him in 1933 instead of stopping them in, so they don't get to 1940, 1939, 1940, 1941. And I think not everybody needs to be out in the streets. Not everybody needs to be writing manifestos. Not everybody needs to be taking direct action. You can fight this stuff by doing stuff like watching movies. You definitely can. Uh, art is one of the most important counters to fascism. So stick with us. You'll see what we're talking about. We hope to do all these things, give you hope, education, catharsis, escape, and inspiration. We hope to do all this.
All right, we're going to probably go through these things a little more quickly than we usually do because we have 20, and otherwise we'll be here 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what we always say.
That's what we
Oh, this is
always
going to be
say.
a quick podcast.
Well, I didn't say it was going to be quick. That's for damn sure. Well,
It's
Mark,
going to
you
go.
want to? Should you start us out with number 20?
So one of the things that I decided to do when we talked about this was I wanted to make sure that we looked that we looked at all aspects of this. And one of the most important things to realize is that this kind of way to deal with the Trump administration is out there everywhere. There are lots of different examples, and we usually stick to genre fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, stuff like that. But I want people to see that the movies and TV shows that they watch every single day are part of this, because people think this is requires a massive commitment to fight these kinds of things, but you're already doing it. You're already doing it. So let's go from here, and I will start with number 10. Number 20, I mean.
Number
Number
20.
20 is really interesting to me because it sets up another one that is really a big name on this list. If you Google movies against fascism or movies against authoritarianism, movies against oppression, you're going to come up with this one. But the one I'm going to talk about is a precursor to it. And it's a movie, I think it was from 71, called The Conversation. We can check the date later. The
Great
Conversation
movie.
is a Francis, 1974, is a Francis Ford Coppola movie. Gene Hackman plays a surveillance expert, a wiretapping expert, who's hired by Harrison Ford, of all people, to bug a couple's apartment. And as he's listening to these conversations, he begins to make a connection with the people he's listening to. He's not supposed to do this. He's supposed to look for the specific information that the client is looking for, gather that information, and then move on. But because he's involved in these people's everyday lives and sees intimate kind of goings on, and because of a previous job that they botched, things begin to change for Hackman and his partner. And gradually he begins to become more empathetic with the people that he's listening to. And he starts to wonder, are these people in real danger? Is this something I need to step in here and correct? And it's just kind of an interesting way to deal with the threats that you're going to come up against in this kind of government, that becoming a part of somebody else's life is a real way to fight these things. That taking an interest in your neighbor, even if they don't necessarily believe the same things you do, that just this exposure to other points of view, and this, even if it comes under a surreptitious kind of situation like eavesdropping on them, this is a way to deal with that kind of authoritarianism. Now, The Conversation is a really good movie because the very same themes come out of a German movie called The Lives of Others. And this is done immediately after the end of the fall of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War. And it's about a character who listens for the secret police in East Germany, the Stasi. He's trying to gather evidence on the couple, and he gradually becomes more and more and more involved with their lives. And he begins to realize just how morally bankrupt and evil the government he works for is. And just by listening to people and just by trying to empathize with them and being a part of their everyday lives, you can fight this kind of fascism. You can fight this kind of authoritarianism. And I think that's an important thing to understand, that the tools are there. They are there every single day, and you use them every day. The important thing is just repurpose these things you're doing every day to try and fight the kind of era that we're in.
And the other reason it's a great movie that you forgot to mention is two words. Okay. Gene Hackman.
Well,
Holy crap.
not just Gene Hackman. John Cazale is in this movie. Do you know who he
Oh,
is?
oh, everybody's great in this movie, but I don't know who that is.
Oh, John Cazale plays his partner.
Okay.
And John Cazale is the guy who played Fredo in The Godfather 2.
Oh,
He
right,
played
right. Of course.
John Cazale was really the love of the love of Meryl Streep's life,
Mhm.
and he was in 5 films his whole career, and every single one of them was nominated for a Best Picture. He was in 5 movies his whole career.
Wow.
He was in that. He was in The Deer Hunter. He was in The Conversation. He was in
He was in The Deer Hunter. Yeah.
Dog Day Dog
Dog
Day
Day
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he died at a very young age of cancer, but he's considered by many to be the greatest actor of his entire generation.
Wow. No, I don't know him. And I feel bad now because now that you said him, I do know him because I know all those movies and I know that guy. I guess I just didn't know the
And
name,
he
but
was nominated for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor multiple times in those five
oh
movies.
God, now I'm embarrassed I didn't know the name.
No, well,
Gee.
most people know him by face but don't know his name, John
Yeah.
Cazale.
Well,
And
that's
and
me.
he's terrific. It's a bit part, but he's terrific in it. He's great in it. That guy stole every movie he was ever in.
Well, he didn't steal the conversation. Well, anyway, so going on to number 19. This is the only, I would say, pure escapism. No, I've got two escapisms in there that are unquestionably, that's why they're there. Um, oh, hell, what am I talking about? My list is full of escapism. Never mind. Um, but I put because sometimes you need to get away from it all and you need a pure fantasy. So
Yeah.
I put something from the Lord of the Rings. I put the best movie of the trilogy, which is Fellowship of the Ring. Although I'm going to say, even that one, it has a little line in there that stuck with everybody who saw it that really, really tags it as a parable about good and evil and feeling like the small person, like someone with no power making a difference. And that was the line when Frodo is lamenting the era in which he is living, and Gandalf replies to him, "So do all those who live in such times, but," and I'm going to get the quote wrong, "but it's not for them to decide. The
Hmm.
question is, what do you do with the time that you have?" And that is such an inspiring quote. It's right out of Tolkien, and it really it makes it a little hint of non-escapism in there because it makes it a parable, and it's a powerful parable for any time, I guess. But it can be comforting in these times.
Yeah, that's a good example. And here's the great part about Lord of the Rings. Everybody sees this as a parable for how to deal with uh, time in the threat of authoritarianism. But uh, and they're right. It's a great parable for that. But Tolkien insisted his entire life that he didn't write it as a parable,
Hmm.
that it's just meant as a pure fantasy. And what I think is interesting about that is, or what's notable about that, is that this really confirms the entire premise in art that the artist's intention is not always relevant. It's not always important.
Hmm.
It's how others interpret your art that becomes important.
I think that's totally true with with all the media of art.
Yeah, I agree. And so the fact that you can look at it this way is perfect.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's
What's
see.
the next one? What you got for us for what is that? Number 17 or no, 18.
18. Well, I'm a big fan of the whole Whedon verse, uh, other things notwithstanding, but the TV show Angel is perfect for dealing with this kind of era. Keep in mind, Angel is a vampire with a soul that was forced upon him by a curse. And at the beginning of the show, he's highly motivated by something called the Shanshu prophecy. And the Shanshu prophecy says, yeah, there's going to be a vampire out there with a soul, and he's actually going to join the side of the good side, the light side. And as a reward, he's going to be turned into a human. So Angel gets to become a real boy. Well, so for a while, he fights for that kind of redemption. But then some things happen in the series that make him realize that that's not why you do things. This is not why he's carrying out his fight against evil. And in one episode, which I don't recall the name of, he meets so the big nemesis in the show is a law firm, and I think that's great. And it's an evil law firm called Wolfram and Hart. Um, and he meets with the former head who's now been killed by vampires, Drew and Darla. Um, so he meets with him to find out. He says, "Okay, fine, we're going to take you to the home office." And this is the turning point for why Angel begins to realize he can't fight for becoming a human again. So that's not it's just not really what's going to happen to him, and that's not the important reason why to fight. So the first step in him understanding why he's really doing this is he takes a trip to the home office, and so they go into this elevator that this dead head of the law firm, of course, in Angel, just because they kill you doesn't mean you die. Um,
Hmm.
so they go into this building and they take an elevator and it goes down 1,000,000 floors. And then they go to commercial break. When they come back, the doors open and they're right back where they were to begin with. And the point is, Earth is the head office. This is where all the evil is occurring. This is where the people who do bad things are from. It's not supernatural, it's inherent in part of being human. So fighting for a reward and fighting to win is pointless because you're not going to change human nature. You're just not.
Mhm.
So gradually over the rest of the series, he begins to realize that the reason why you fight, even though you may never win, is because it's the right thing to do. Is because what else do you do in this situation? You can't give up. You have to keep fighting. You may never win, but you fight in and only in a situation because you know it's the right thing to do.
Mhm. Sure.
And this is an inspiration part of this whole how to deal with things in the Trump era. This is an inspiring thing to understand that you may not get to directly benefit from this, but it's the right thing to do, so you do it.
Mhm.
Um, it's like the big reward you get for being human. You're going to die in the end, but you can't give up.
Right.
You have to keep doing it. And it's because you have no other choice. And for Angel, he comes full circle and he signs, well, spoiler alert, he signs away his taking on of or getting the reward for the Shanshu prophecy. And instead, he fights. And this goes all the way up until the last episode. And the last line of the last episode is, "Let's get to work." And
Excellent.
if you see this from this perspective, and I would tell everyone who's a big fan of Angel to rewatch the show because this is very inspirational. You fight because it's the right thing to do, and you may not win, and you may not make much progress, but you fight because you must.
I
So
almost put a vampire thing on there just because I like the image of stabbing evil through the heart. But I did not. Obviously, you put that up for different reasons. But anyways, thought about it. Number 17, and there's a reason this one isn't higher on the list because it's kind of obvious to genre fans, and that's V for Vendetta,
mhm.
with the script by the Wachowskis, based on the graphic novel by Alan Moore and David Lloyd. Um, Now, V for Vendetta, again, I won't spend too much time on it because I'm imagining listeners probably know about it. It's an imagined fascist England, which is I mean, it goes down the list of fascism. It's religious fascism, it's the surveillance state, it's just curfews. It's everything you would think of. And I want to focus on that or emphasize that religious nature of it, as well, and people watching banal TV to keep them, you know, oh, which reminds me of another one I should have put in here. But anyways, I'll save that for an honorable mention. But it's really good. It's a pretty faithful adaptation from the graphic novel. The only reason I didn't put it higher, oh, and I should say it involves it's a superhero movie. It's the most interesting superhero I think in film, and you have this character V, who basically is a terrorist and foments a revolution. The only reason I didn't put it higher is that nature of terrorism, and that's kind of sketchy. It does glorify the violence,
Yeah, it
in
really does. That's for
in my
sure.
opinion. Yeah. So while the themes are great, the images are great, it does do that. So I thought it needed to be mentioned, but yeah, I don't want to spend too much time doing that. Other movies on that I chose also to an extent glorify violence, but in a much more sort of thin, escapist way. But
Yeah.
this feels a little more deep somehow. So, but anyways, that was my number 17 there.
All right, the next one on the list is a Wes Anderson movie, and I love Wes Anderson movies. He's a Texas boy. He worked early on with the Wilson brothers, and when you look at this, any of his movies, you think, okay, how are these brightly colored, set piece, detail oriented visuals? What the heck does this have to do with fighting an authoritarian regime? Well, the plot of the movie is not really that important. It's important because it does involve, fascist troops in Hungary, um, and what the hotel represents in this. It's essentially a murder mystery. Ray Fiennes plays the owner of a very splendiferous hotel in the 30s before Europe collapses into fascism, and it's in a fictional republic, which reminds me of I can't remember the name of the country that's depicted in The Mouse That Roared. Do you remember that old movie?
Oh, the name of the country?
Yeah, I can't.
I can't think of it either.
It's the Grand Duchy of something.
Yeah.
But the name of this country is very much like that. So Ray Fiennes plays the proprietor of this giant. It reminds you of Europe in its golden age in the 19th century before World War One hotel. It reminded me a lot of the movie, a lot of the book, The Magic Mountain. And the TV, the hotel is brightly colored, and you have all these different diverse groups of people working in the hotel and part of the staff. And there's a person who's basically homeless that's brought on as the assistant manager. And just the entire aesthetic of the movie celebrates diversity, not just ethnic or linguistic diversity, but diversity of sexual orientation, diversity of economic spectrum, diversity of all these different things. And it's just a symbol for civil society and what makes civil society so good. And it's a very sneaky movie when it talks about fascism. There's a big climax of the movie at the end, which solves all the problems, including the murder mystery that's involved in this show. But it's just a celebration of all the things that make democratic societies work well when they work. And it's visually there. It's there in the cast. It's there in the roles they represent. It's just a very good way to figure out that you can fight this stuff in everyday life. I mean, the guy runs a hotel. That's not inherently a political act. It's just not, except when you see this movie. So I really love his movies. He has a very, I hate to use this word now, but everybody uses it. He has a very curated sense of what should be on film and what should not. He's very careful to have asymmetric composition in his shots. His editing is very smooth. There's not a lot of jump cuts. And it's just a really interesting way to visually show the benefits of having lots of variety in your in your world. Love that
Yeah.
movie. You guys got to see it.
So number 15 I've got is Peter Sellers' last movie, Being There.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, it's based on a novel. It's yeah, it's I'm gonna have to edit out some Peter Sellers plays a gardener, Chance the gardener, who is very much very simple, and I mean more simple than you think when I say the word he's simple.
Yeah,
Uh,
he makes Forrest Gump look like a genius.
right, right, exactly. And all he knows is gardening and TV. And when his benefactor passes away, he's suddenly finds himself in the real world and he's not equipped to deal with it whatsoever. And then from just a quirk of fate, he gets caught up into Washington politics. And the simple stuff that he says, everyone decides is actually profound and that he's actually an eccentric genius. So, the president picks up on what he's saying and puts it into his speeches but when he talks about gardening, it's never a metaphor. It's just all he has to talk about. Now, it's a satire. It's an Emperor Has No Clothes movie for sure. Uh, people are supposed to look stupid for using this, but the fact is, and you feel this in the movie, that there is truth. There is a simple truth to what he's saying. And it is meaningful. It is sweet in a way. And I think those sweet, simple metaphors that are teased as jokes are also kind of represented as true. And that gives it a certain sort of beauty in the context of Washington that I think is sort of cathartic, honestly. And the purity of what he's saying is only emphasized when he walks away at the end on the water without sinking because he doesn't know any better. And
Yeah.
anyways, I really enjoy that movie. I haven't seen it in a very long time, so I'm going from memory here, but I like it a
And
lot.
it's sneaky. It's a sneaky movie. You don't realize that you are being moved toward a certain perspective in that movie.
Yeah, it's
And
sweet.
it's, what's interesting is what people in the audience project onto that movie too. Because you have a conversation with people about this movie, sometimes it looks like they watched a completely different movie than you did.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people are going to see it very differently than I just did. And maybe I'm choosing to see it that way, but so what? I choose to see it that way.
Yeah. No, it's definitely used that way, and it's definitely part of the movie for sure. It's yeah. Do you know the character in the MCU, which I think most resembles Chance the Gardener?
Oh, who are you going to say?
Drax.
Oh, Drax. Well, Drax in the MCU, certainly not in the comics. Very
No, no,
different
not in the
character.
comics. In the MCU, he's played for the comedy of the literal.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
he's very simple, and that simplicity often has a strong message. That's it's simple's good. This is one that I almost didn't put on, but I don't see how you can avoid it. It's The Matrix.
You can't avoid it. It was going to be on my list and I forgot about it. I can't believe I forgot about it. But yeah, go ahead.
The Matrix is a perfect example of this. There's only one problem. I do think this is a movie that fits in all of our categories for this. It leaves you hope. It is a catharsis. It's about movie about education and why that's so important. It's a movie about escape because a lot of people just choose never to take the right pill.
Mhm.
And it's a movie about resistance.
Mhm.
It's about all of these things. And uh, a lot of the reason why this movie is so important is because so many people on both the left and the right don't think that the current government is fascist.
Right.
They haven't taken the right pill.
Right.
And, uh, I resisted his argument for a very long time. But finally, kind of the thing that convinced me is, do you know what Godwin's law is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there's
Everybody on the internet knows that.
yeah, Godwin's law was developed by a philosopher, a guy named Mike Godwin. And he said the minute you bring Hitler into an argument and compare somebody to Hitler, you've lost the argument because the circumstances that involved with the rise of fashion is in Germany is very unique, and nobody's like Hitler.
Oh, see, I thought
Well,
Godwin's law was every argument on the internet eventually degrades into a Hitler mention. Am I totally
no,
wrong about
no.
that?
Yeah, no, that's not what it is. Godwin's law says the minute you mention Hitler in an argument, you've lost.
Okay.
And in the middle of Trump's first term, Mike Godwin came out and said, no, it's okay to call Trump a Hitler. He knows exactly what he's doing. Uh, he said it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. He knows exactly what he's doing. And this has been really helpful in online discussions. And people come on and say, "Oh, you lose, Godwin's law." And I find the quote from the article he wrote for the Atlantic, and I say, "Oh, really? Because Godwin's on my side." But
Uh,
it's important to understand that really you're being manipulated every single day by social media. And this gets back to our discussion that we had about voting and how the electoral systems are secure. And Democrats are now arguing that Elon Musk stole the election. And there are two variants of this. One is that he fixed voting through the whole country. And the other one is that, well, he didn't have to tamper with the voting machines in all the states. He only had to do it in swing states. Well, you and I agreed that why would you do that when it's a lot cheaper and faster and easier to just put lies on the internet and
mhm.
tell people they're true? Besides the fact that we don't have a national electoral system. It's not like other countries where the central government takes care of all of it. It's decentralized. We
Right,
basically more or less have 50 different systems.
right.
But the matrix now is the internet. And let me just tell you, the internet is convincing a whole lot of people who don't have the tools to think otherwise that things are terrible and that they're victims and that the only way out is to follow a failed businessman. And that's going on right now. So look for the right colored pill because that's where we are. And it's just a very obvious example that deals with all these things in how to live in the become Neo, be Neo. We need Neo. Now, this is the only problem that I have with the movie. Uh, you're not going to have one person who saves you. There is no Neo in our system who is going to take down all the people who are acting to enable fascism. You are Neo, and I'm Neo, and my brother's Neo, and my sister's Neo, and all the people are Neo.
Mhm. Yeah, so we've got the Wachowskis appearing twice in this. That idea that you're saying is definitely more apparent in V for Vendetta. That idea that we're all in the Guy Fawkes mask and
Yeah,
and the final revolution is everybody.
we are all the way to fix this.
Yeah.
You can't rely on one single person. We all have to act together. We all have to work together.
Yeah. So number 13 is sort of a cute one, a cute and easy one if you're familiar with the movie. And that's Dave with Kevin Kline and
Oh, that's a
Sigourney
great movie.
Weaver. You know, Dave is just sort of a regular guy who gets tapped by secret interests in Washington who need him because he's an exact he's like the doppelganger of the president. And the president has had a terrible stroke and is not able to function anymore. So they have Dave come in to pretend to be the president, so everyone will think that he's still that the president is still in control.
Yeah.
And of course, the way it goes is the president is really a schmuck. And so Dave gets up there and Dave makes it all right. Dave's just a regular guy, simple guy. And he likes, he's one of the great unwashed and he wants to make it better for everyone. And it's sweet and slowly Sigourney Weaver starts falling for him, which is okay because eventually the actual president dies. And anyways, so it goes. It's supposed to not just make you feel about it, but just give you a little more of sense of hope at the end of it in the political process.
Yeah.
And it's cute. It's cute. Go see it. It'll make you feel better.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of the TV show The West Wing.
Yeah, except the West Wing always bugged me, honestly. But that's for another episode. I'm sure we can squeeze that into something.
All righty.
What you got?
Um,
And we're
I
up to
think my
number
next one,
12 here, by the way.
yeah, I think the next one people are going to be surprised by. They're going to be a little bit shocked by it. It's The Life of Brian.
Absolutely.
Um,
Everybody knows that movie, right? Get off the internet if you don't know that movie,
yeah, stop now, get off the internet, go watch it.
right?
So, well, you're probably not going to get off the internet, but
Early internet was just what was it? Monty Python, Star Trek, and uh,
cats,
cats. Yes.
not the musical, the animals.
Right.
So, Life of Brian is a satire of, well, essentially, it's a satire of modern religion, and not just Christianity, but all three of the major monotheistic religions. And it tells the story of somebody parallel to Jesus, Brian, who's not the Messiah. According to a mother, he's a very naughty boy. And kind of everything that happens to Brian, I mean, to Jesus happens to Brian, just kind of in a funnier and less important way. But really, the fundamental message of the movie happens in the very last part. And, you know, it ends the typical way with crucifixion, and Brian is getting crucified, and Eric Idle is up there, and by the way, so is his wife. Um, uh, and at the very end of the movie, what does he do? He starts whistling and singing. And what's the song?
Always look on the bright side of
Always look on the
life.
bright side of life, which is, by the way, the number one song played at British funerals now. So my point here is that yes, things are terrible. Yes, your rights are being denied you. Yes, people are being kidnapped and deported, whether they're citizens or not, regardless of status. Things are as bad as you think they are. But one of the only ways to deal with this is to whistle that tune and sing out loud and understand there you always look at the bright side of life. And humor is a really important tool in dealing with this. It really is. There's a movie that I did not put on this list because it's kind of maudlin and kind of a little bit naive, but it's not as naive as people, especially critics, made it out to be. And that's the movie Life is Beautiful.
Yeah.
And in that movie, uh, the main character, they're Italian Jews, and they get shipped off to a concentration camp. And to help his son survive, he's a big walking slapstick comedian, and he teaches his son these games that he needs to do to survive, like hide or be quiet and all these other things. And to keep his child from realizing just how bad things are, he's silly, he's goofy. He does dances and sings songs and makes fun of guards. And of course, we all know where it ends, but his
Yeah.
son survives.
Mhm.
And he survives by using humor. And he survives by trying to understand a greater perspective of things. And I just think this movie is great for that. Besides, it's falling down funny in places.
Yeah, it is.
And it skewers a lot of people. It skewers all the crazy politics of the Middle East. It skewers everybody who's a religious zealot. Um, it's just a really funny movie. And if you've ever studied in Latin, it has one of the best Latin lessons you could possibly imagine, where the Roman soldier is correcting Brian's grammar. Romans go to the house in
Right.
his graffiti.
That's funny.
But it really is kind of Python at their peak.
Yeah, definitely. No
It's a
question.
great movie. And if you're younger and listening to the podcast, please go see it. You're missing a big part of your education if you've not seen Life of Brian.
All right, for number 11, one of mine, and if we're talking about fighting, if we're talking about fascism in the context of World War II and the Nazis, then this will seem like an obvious one, I suppose. And that's Inglorious Bastards from
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. It's one of his sort of alternate history
Yes.
movies like
It's
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's this totally cathartic alternate history. But oh man, it's this team. It's got Brad Pitt in it, who's hilarious. And hilarious. I got to be careful here because it does deal with serious stuff. It's Quentin
yeah,
Tarantino.
it's satire.
Yeah. But it's it's also just this is what he thinks. This is the way he thinks the world should have gone, even beyond just satire. And one of the things I love is when they get one of these Nazis, the ones that they don't kill, he'll like
Yeah.
carve a swastika into their foreheads, so they're forever branded as a Nazi. It's just, okay. Talk about glorifying violence. A lot of mine on my list do. Okay. It's the way it is. It's just cathartic. I don't think anybody should actually do that, but in a movie, it feels good, damn it. So, anyways, that's number 11.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You wish some stuntman like Hal Needham had been in the house when they came to call.
Hmm.
That's not what happened, but you wish that, if violence is going to be used, it needs to be used, on the right side, but it doesn't, and it rarely works out that way. But yeah, it's especially if you know anything about history, it's quite the romp this movie is. And it's
Yeah.
not, but it is. It's
Well,
quite the
it
romp.
goes out of his way to be.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
half of his films are homage anyway. And boy, the best thing about that movie is the introduction to Americans to Christoph Waltz.
oh, right, right.
He is such a brilliant actor,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
only Tarantino would find that guy. I got my problems with Tarantino, but he's really good at casting. Really, really, really good at
Yeah,
casting.
no, agree 100% on that.
Because
100%.
that's a great movie. But Waltz went on to make Django Unchained, and man, that movie.
Yeah.
He's better than Leonardo DiCaprio. He's better than Jamie Foxx. He's as good as Samuel L. Jackson. And Samuel L. Jackson plays one of the biggest movie villains in movie history. And
Oh God, and he was so good.
you should go back and uh, Google the conversation that Samuel L. Jackson said had with Quentin Tarantino when Quentin Tarantino came and said, "This is what I want you to do."
Yeah. Best Samuel L. Jackson ever,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's yeah, but any movie that brings us to Christoph Waltz is a good movie. All right, we're moving on pretty quick here.
Well,
That's
that's
good.
good because we got a big list.
I know. Where are we now? Let's see. The last one I did was Life of Brian. We're now at 10. This is one of the more direct movies. It's actually about a fascist era. It's Pan's Labyrinth.
One of my favorite movies, by the
This
way.
is Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece. Say what you want about The Shape of Water. No, this is it.
I think we mentioned it. It was on our list of missed or what am I trying to say?
Unappreciated, yeah.
Or incorrectly tagged masterpieces.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
uh,
think I put that on there.
yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is a great movie. It's a story of a little girl whose mother is married to a brutal fascist general in Franco Spain. And Americans don't know about this period, but the Spanish Civil War was a harbinger of World War II, and uh, it has reverberations to this day. I went to Spain last year on a business trip, and one of the first few things you see on the way from Madrid to the first place I stayed, which is a town called Valladolid, is you see a giant, massive, huge cross out in the middle of nowhere. That's Francisco Franco's grave, and it used to be
Oh,
right in the center of Madrid. And they only moved it, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. Uh, and they moved it out to the country where as few people would see it as possible because he killed a lot of people when he took power. And it's the tale of this little girl who has to cope with uh, her stepfather being a horrible person and a person who uses violence the way other people spend currency. And how she deals with it is one day in the forest, a fairy comes and says, "Come to where we are. You can get away from your awful life." And the whole movie kind of then is she's given certain tasks to fulfill to save a princess. And of course, the princess is her. So it's this lyrical tale of how a little girl deals with being in a terrible place and a terrible time, trapped with a terrible stepfather. And it's darker than you think it is. I will not spoil the ending, but it's not a well. I was going to say it's not a fairy tale ending. Let me say it's not a Disney fairy tale ending. It's a German fairy tale
Right, old
ending.
school.
It is very old school uh, fairy tale ending. It's a cautionary tale, but it's also one that deals with inspiration. It deals with escape. It deals with resistance, and it's beautiful. It really plays upon the traditional fairy tale and how they were actually used. They weren't necessarily just used to teach you have to respect your parents or don't eat a house made of candy. And it's just a beautiful movie, and it's scary in places, it's charming in places, it's ridiculously sad in places, and it's super violent in places. But unlike some of the other films we've talked about, this violence is not glorified. You have a little girl who has to deal with bloody, brutal, ruthless, pointless violence every day. It is not glorified. It is not romanticized. It's presented in its ugliest form. And but it's all those things. It really is a modern masterpiece. It's if you made one movie and it was as good as Pan's Labyrinth, you should quit. You're not going to make anything better.
Oh, we're moving on to number nine here, and number
Yeah.
nine was one of mine, and it's Norma Ray, starring
Yeah.
Sally Field. You know, it's funny. I was looking for a movie about organizing, right? Could have been
Yep.
union organizing, could have been any other kind of organizing. I just wanted to find a movie about organizing where it wasn't about a martyrdom. I
Right.
I wanted to see it work. And this is apparently inspired by a true story with which I didn't realize until I picked it up again to look at it for this. I had no idea. And it's Sally Field as a single mother who works in a cotton mill. Cotton mill is pretty awful. It's they work people too hard. The health there's definitely health concerns working there. Uh, and it involves a union organizer coming down and organizing, and she becomes a key part of organizing the union. And without going into too many details, because it's about the organizing, it's really much more about the characters. I mean, the union organizing is front and center for sure. But, you get into this, her life after her husband had died, and a couple folks who come into her life, a couple men, including the union organizer, who I'm not going to say, well, I don't know what's the word. Anyways, they become important parts of her life in ways you might expect. But at the end, they're successful by very few votes. The union is approved, and the workers are given a better situation, or at least that their conditions are going to improve. And obviously, I just wanted something in there about working against the establishment, the evil establishment, and succeeding, saying that people can
Yeah.
organize, people can make a difference, you can come together, and you can come out on top. Sometimes at great, with personal consequences, but nevertheless, we are all in it together, and if we stay together, we can make a difference.
Yeah, that's really, and this is a good example of it. There are a number of movies you could watch about this. You could watch movies about the Union of Farm Workers in California. If you think things are bad for undocumented workers now, you should have seen it in the 60s.
Hmm.
And they organized and won. And so, yeah, there's a number of things. There's another movie like this, but it didn't have to do with the unions. It's another Sally Field movie, which um, I can't think of it now, where you're coming together to cooperate. I mean, any movie which involves struggle against a kind of authoritative system and winning is going to help.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for
and it
sure.
is possible. I mean, people have risen up and made political change just by, taking the act of getting out and walking.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's good to see that, the collective can work to defeat authoritarianism.
Yeah, yeah.
That's important to see. We need to, people, like I said, people need to see this stuff that they're doing every single day. They can use to help fight fascism. They can use to help fight authoritarian government. So,
Yeah.
oh, and no, it's okay. I'm going to go on to the next one. The next one is a great example. And let me just say that any corporation or government or organization says they're going to make the world better by changing human nature, run.
There's your
Because
serenity quote there for you.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's not just Serenity. I mean, it's really obvious in Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange touches on a lot of interesting philosophical themes. There's one I've talked about incessantly. Are humans better off if they are in a controlled system with institutions and rules and norms, or are humans better off in a situation where they have as much liberty as possible?
Right. Right.
Is it better to let Alex, the main character in A Clockwork Orange, go around and hurt people and kill people and rape people because he's free? Or is it better to use the tools of society to control these people in a way that takes away their liberty?
Right.
Um, Long story short, the main character, Alex, is part of a gang in kind of a post-apocalyptic Britain where society is so aligned with Russia now that you get Russian words mixed in with English. Firefly. Um, and he is basically a very bad person. Uh, he's caught in a rape and murder of someone, and instead of being imprisoned, they give him a choice to undergo what's called the Ludovico treatment, which is a conditioned. It's a psychological conditioning project where they treat him to all kinds of terrible, brutal things that alter his behavior, that make him violently ill every time he wants to hurt or kill someone. And then, of course, it's so bad that he takes steps to end that. And every single time he's manipulated by this government, and he's manipulated multiple times in multiple ways, you begin to understand just how bad government can be and how intrusive government can be. And sometimes for purposes that might seem like good intentions. So it's important to be careful of institutions, especially if they say they want to change human nature. The Stalin in Stalinist Russia, they talked about the new socialist man and how he's different under socialism. And we can exploit, I mean, we can use the tendency that, or the idea that everyone tends toward the good to make changes. And the question is, do we rob humans of their humanity if you use these government institutions and methods to take away people's liberty?
Hmm.
And the answer is always, that's a bad idea. That doesn't mean that we need people to be criminals and we'll allow them to do whatever they want. But the foundation of a democratic system is liberty. It just is.
Hmm.
And and human nature in these movies, and you can add a whole bunch of movies to this. There's a lot of science fiction and horror movies. This is the Hunger Games movies. This is uh the Maze Runner series of novels. This is a huge number of things. But you got to be wary of people who say we can use the government to change human nature. No, you can't. And when you do that, you almost always stomp on people's individual human rights. Almost always. So in those situations, you have to do like Captain Mal and aim to misbehave. Old Captain Tight Pants had it right. We don't want to be in this situation. Nobody wants to be here. Nobody choose this situation. But in this situation, I aim to misbehave.
Hmm.
So if you want a good role model of how to deal with kind of more or less the philosophy that you need to do this, look to Captain Malcolm Reynolds because he's not perfect, but he sure wants to make sure people have a right to determine their own lives.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on from that one. But
Yeah, and
that that
I will
that
say,
frame, I aim to misbehave. I mean, that phrase, I aim to misbehave. I've been thinking about that since 2016.
yeah, and I'll mention about that movie. I mean, as you say, the movie is a parable about free will, good or
Yeah,
ill, that we're defined, that we're not human without free will. And Anthony Burgess was not a fan of the movie, at least initially, although he came around a little bit. And I think it's because of he was a lapsed Catholic, but still the Catholicism really,
yeah,
really, really shaped him. And, the Catholic version of free will is different.
yeah.
It's a way towards purity, really. True free will lead you to do good things.
Right.
So it's yeah. So I'll just say that the endings were drastically different. But anyways, going on to the next one. Okay, you want pure escapism here? Wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a cool president? If we had an awesome president, you know? Wouldn't it be cool if Harrison Ford was our president?
Oh
So,
yeah.
number 7 is Air Force One. I mean, I don't need to say much about this movie. Go see it. It's totally simple. It's a hijack movie with it's evil hardcore Russians who are more hardcore even than the government, and they hijack the plane. It's Gary Oldman. It's Gary
Yeah.
Oldman, for God's sake.
It
And
can't get much better than Gary Oldman in a villain role.
right, right. Um, or Sid Vicious. But that's another story. Um, it's awesome. I mean, the president has to, you know, be the guy who does the tricky things. He's hiding in the airplane. They don't know that the president is there. And he's just, he's hanging out the plane by the end of it, holding on to the it's awesome. It's awesome. Anyways, yeah.
And I
Wonderful.
won't spoil the tagline to the movie, but it's that moment is pure Harrison Ford.
All right, let's go on to number 6 then.
Okay, number 6. This is another one of those weird ones in a way because it's a musical. It's Cabaret.
What good is it?
1971, I think, or 1970. Joel Grey, Liza Minnelli. It takes place pretty much in the confines, for the most part, in a nightclub in 1930s Berlin. And the plot is very simple. It's a group of actors uh, in the middle of 1930s Berlin. 1930s Berlin was a real center of multiculturalism in the 20s and 30s. You had general acceptance of homosexuals and homosexual culture. You had general acceptance of pretty much lots of different groups of society. I mean, one of the reasons why They had a large Jewish population in Berlin in the 20s. Um, and it takes place in a nightclub. And at the beginning, it's all about song and dance and having fun and partying. And slowly the Nazis creep in, and slowly they start, Germans start to accept racism, and Germans start to accept brutality, and Germans. And what happens is the performers, the people who work at the club, and we talk about watchfulness and being uh, 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 constantly being vigilant. These people do the opposite. And we've talked a lot about how it's important to escape and run away, and like you just did in the last movie. But what this movie shows is that sometimes escapism and running away and ignoring is what's going to make things worse.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And you can't escape some of these things. You have to face some of these things. And if you don't, before you know it, they're in complete control.
Hmm.
And kidnapping people on the streets is fine. And using the armed forces against the local population is fine. And denying people their Fifth Amendment and 14th Amendment due process rights, oh, no, that's not a big deal. If you don't pay attention to these things and you're not vigilant for these things and you actively try to escape them, sometimes it's too late. And this movie is great in teaching you that slowly, suddenly, it doesn't happen suddenly. It happens slowly and incrementally. And before you know it, they are shutting down your club and beating your performers to death and sending them off to concentration camps. And now you're stuck because you didn't do anything about it. You stayed in the club and you sang and you danced and you drank, and now Nazis are in complete control. So,
Joel Grey in this movie as the MC is deeply disturbing in a way that's hard to put into words. You know what I mean?
yeah, but he's going to be he's they're all going to be victims of the regime, and that's the really tragic part of this movie. Nobody's getting out of this alive,
Hmm.
and a lot of it is because they did nothing at the beginning. They did nothing, and if you do nothing, these things become acceptable, and if they become acceptable, then worse things will be acceptable.
That's true.
So it's subtle, it's sly, but man, by the time you get to the end of the movie, you realize the mistake they've made. So don't be complacent. Don't think, well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm fine. Get into it now. Stop it in 1933 Nazi Germany instead of getting to 1941, 42, 43 Germany. That's important.
Yep.
And it's kind of interesting. I recently saw that Joel Grey came out and said, this movie is more relevant than it's ever been.
Sure,
And
sure,
you
absolutely.
should go see it again. So it's one of the best anti-authoritarian, anti-fascist movies out there, and it's all done through song and dance.
Yeah, yeah. Great music too. I am not a fan of most musicals. I'm not a musical guy, but the music in Cabaret is
Well,
pretty
and
awesome and pretty
the other
effective.
thing to watch in Cabaret is if you're a fan of dance, and even if you're not, wow, Bob Fosse is all. I mean, he does the choreography, he directed the
Hmm.
movie, he did all this other stuff. It's great. No, I don't think he directed the movie, but
I
I
don't
know
think
he did
so,
the
but I don't know.
choreography in the movie. And you'll see why he was a genius choreographer in this movie. But all of this is in service to an anti-fascist message.
Absolutely. So number five. Okay, I have three words for you here. Rowdy, Roddy, Piper.
Oh yeah,
They Live from John Carpenter. Oh man, if you haven't seen this movie, don't listen to this podcast. By God, it's a mainly it's a genre podcast, but
yeah.
although
Run
we're
away.
expanding, we're really expanding. We get away from this geeky stuff a little bit. But anyways, they live where Rowdy Roddy Piper is the everyman sort of wandering around the street and he finds these glasses that let him see the way the world really is. And
It's
all
a
the
precursor to the Matrix.
yeah, and all the billboards, all the magazines, all the pages in all the magazines, all the signs. They actually have these big, stark messages like sleep, don't question authority. Uh,
Obey.
away, yeah. It's awesome. So he finds out there's this whole long going um, alien conspiracy to take over the world by making everyone complacent, by giving them these messages everywhere they look, on the TV,
Even the
and
money.
even the money. Yeah, and and he finds the people, working class people. We get a lot of look at how the homeless are treated, which is
Yeah.
certainly relevant now. But he finds the underground, doesn't he? Doesn't he find the underground?
No,
It's been
he
a
finds
while
the
since I've seen
underground.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at the end, he doesn't. Well, why am I about to give away the ending again? I'm not going to do that. I'm going
No.
to stop myself. But the end is sort of halfway satisfying. But anyways, a lot of fun, and obviously full of social messaging, very intentional, and cool. Go check it out.
Yeah, and if you really like it, go check out the short story it's based on. It's like a three-page short story called 8 o'clock in the morning. It's by a guy named Ray Nelson, and it's a very short little thing. You can read it in 15 minutes, and wow, this movie is so great. It's a little cheesy the way he made it, and we've talked about this movie before. We talked about that in movies which should be remade.
And
Uh,
the fight scene.
See, now that's what you ought to be doing. See, I hate that fight scene, but that's
I love it.
it just goes on for way too long.
It sure as hell does.
So, but yeah, this is an anti-fascism, anti-authoritarian classic.
And anti-corporate more than really
Oh, it's
almost
definitely
anything.
anti-corporate.
Yeah. And we
But you see,
forget that the corporate is as big an issue with fascism as we're knowing it, as we're
yeah,
learning it.
this is should be setting off alarm bells with everybody. When Elon Musk is brought in to help run the government, that's called corporatist political economy, where companies which bend to the ideology that the political party has get rewarded, and those which don't get punished. That is classical fascist economics,
Yep.
and yeah, that is skewered every bit as much in They Live as anywhere else. It's just you've got these business leaders and they're complicit. They know what's going on. They know there are aliens in this conspiracy. And yet why do they continue doing it? For the money, because it's profitable.
Right.
Love this
Exactly.
movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's terrific.
Up to number 4. What you got for us?
Let's see. I have another World War II classic and considered to be one of the best movies ever made, Casablanca.
Which seems like maybe an odd choice, but not really when you think about it. I think it's a really good pick.
Yeah, this is really a good choice because it shows that even people who are on the edges of society and doing not very good things can help. The main character, it involves a guy named Rick. Rick is a cabaret owner in fascist Vichy, France. And on the side, he has a nice little business of uh, obtaining and selling visas so people can escape Nazi rule or French Vichy rule. And his uh, bar is kind of a safe haven for everybody. The Gestapo goes there, refugees go there, locals go there, people who are against the French resistance go there, people who are for the French resistance go there, Americans show up. And he has kind of this nice little safe haven where everybody can exist and everybody can forget their troubles for a while and have a drink and listen to somebody play the piano and singing. But like the movie Cabaret, inch by inch, moment by moment, the Nazis begin to take over. They begin to dominate the system. And Rick comes to understand it's time to make a choice. And do I save my cash cow, or do I reluctantly, terribly force myself to make do the right thing? And it's also a love story.
Oh, yes.
And this is about moral choice. This is about abandoning what's easy and what's good for you at your possible the expense of your the possible expense of your life to make the right choice. It's very inspirational. It gives you hope. It makes you understand that even people who might not necessarily have a stable place in society can help. And Rick has to do some bad things and make some difficult choices. But these are the kinds of things that you're going to have to deal with. It's a brilliant movie. The dialogue is amazing. People quote lines from this movie that don't even know where it's from.
Mhm.
Some of the dialogue has become that much a part of American English vernacular. And you can start it with a line that is never uttered in the movie. Play it again, Sam.
I know it's not in there.
The actual movie is play it. You played it for her. You can play it for me. And he never mentions Sam, and he never says the word again. He said, play it. You played it for her. You can play it for me.
Yep.
And by the way, that guy's music, the guy who plays the pianist, he's a great jazz player. I've heard some of his records. He's really good. But this movie is inspirational. It is golden age Hollywood. The dialogue is sharp. There's not a scene you can take out of the movie. The editing is great. The lighting is great. Everything is great about this movie. This is up there with The Godfather and Citizen Kane. It's one of the best movies ever made. If you take a film class, they're going to talk about it.
Yep. No argument from me whatsoever. And I think it's very cool that you thought to put this in the list because it wouldn't have occurred to me.
Yeah, this is a great movie because it talks about moral dilemmas. It talks about love and what love will drive you to do. It's very hopeful. It is an incredibly hopeful movie. And so if times are bad and the Supreme Court makes stupid decisions, put in Casablanca. Put it in. It's going to help.
All right. So we're up to number three. Number three, speaking of hope, I don't think I mean, it's escapist too, obviously, but I think it's about hope. Now, here we go. Neither of us contained ourselves with our usual inclinations, shall we say. But you kept yours at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
Not me, brother. I put it at the top of the list. Number three on this list is Star Trek First Contact. By God. I think most people, everybody listening will understand that Star Trek takes place in a utopian Earth. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, you get away from Earth, there's conflict, we run into other societies, other species that haven't gotten there yet. And a lot of the stories are about that. There's full scale war, large scale that happens out there, but Earth is the utopia.
Yeah.
And Earth is supposed to be a future where diversity is celebrated, and it's through diversity, not just of folks on Earth, but they bring in diversity of aliens and all that sort of thing. But infinite diversity and infinite combinations, right? And through
Yep.
that diversity, we have created a utopia where disease is controlled, mental illness is controlled, people have their basic needs met, people have self-actualization met. It's great. And First Contact is the movie that gives you hope, that shows you there it is. It's right before we achieve that utopia, and you see people, real people working towards a common goal. The Vulcans land at the end, and you see that now we've begun the journey to the utopia. So you have to know Star Trek, I guess, to really appreciate this, and I'm guessing listeners do. But this is the movie where you see it coming, where you see the hope, where you see it all coming together, all the grief, all the war that humanity has gone through. Now we're coming out the other side, and now we're going to make it better. So that's why I put it up there. And as I say, you contained yourself. You kept the Whedon stuff down at number 18, but nuh-uh, number 3.
I'm trying to, did I miss one here?
Did I miss one for you? You should put a double in then.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You might have missed one because by my reckoning, we should be at my number one.
We are.
Okay.
We're up to
So,
number 2, which is your number 1.
got it. Okay, great. I was very confused for a second. Okay, mine is not a movie, it's a set of movies.
And this is number 2, folks.
Yeah, number two. This is a set of movies. And it's a set of movies, and you should know right off the bat this is propaganda. But it's propaganda from World War II. People don't understand this about the history of the United States. Up until the time the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we were not going to get involved in World War II.
Which
Roosevelt
is
wanted
where
to.
that's where the conspiracy theories come from, of course.
Roosevelt wanted to. He was dying to. And he was doing everything he possibly could to get us involved in the war in Germany because he saw, rightly so, Hitler as an existential threat. Congress was having none of it. And if you've heard that phrase, America first, which the Trump administration is using a lot, yeah, I hate to tell you that, but that was a key phrase used by American fascists who supported Hitler in the 30s. America first. So that phrase does not have a good pedigree. So we weren't going to get involved at all. And then the Japanese came and handed FDR a present. The bomb Pearl Harbor, it's a surprise attack. Americans didn't expect that was going to happen. And now we're in the fight. But there was concern in Washington. All these people who had no interest in fighting, how do we make a case for them that this is really important to commit to? Because unlike modern wars, in World War II, every person suffered some kind of deprivation, whether it was you couldn't get silk stockings, or you had to ration your butter, your cheese, your eggs, or you had to drive around the neighborhood and gather up pots and pans because they needed incredible amounts of metal for all kinds of things. Everybody was affected by World War II in the United States on a daily basis. And so what they come up with is a series of movies that were directed by some of the best directors in Hollywood. A household name in America started this project, Frank Capra, the director of It's a Wonderful Life. So this was his idea. And it's 7 propaganda films produced by the War Department from 1942 to 45 during World War II. And it is a case-by-case understanding of what the Nazis have done, what the Japanese have done, how we got here, and why it's important for us to stand up and fight against these terrible forces. And it's a direct response to a German film director, a lady named Leni Riefenstahl, who filmed lots of propaganda films, including her most famous film, Triumph of the Will, which is a glorification of Hitler and his rise to power. And he saw that as a direct challenge to American filmmakers. And so he got together, worked with the War Department, and he did 7 different films. And I'll just quickly go over the list of the names of them. There's Prelude to War, which examines the difference between democratic and fascist states, which covers Japanese invasions, Italians, the early stuff. Then the Nazi strike, we're talking about Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. And Divide and Conquer, which is about the fall of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Norway, and Denmark. Then the Battle of Britain, the Battle of Russia, the Battle of China, and War Comes to America. And this is literally a series of films designed to convince Americans that this is not a choice, that we are obligated as people who value democratic institutions and democratic values, that we've got to do this. And it affects you, it affects your neighbors, it affects your friends, it even affects the people who are, troublesome for you. We are all in this together. And there's no doubt this is all propaganda, but it very clearly and very explicitly explains why fascism is a threat to human civilization. Just is. And people don't really understand that. And they're saying that we're panicking, and they're saying that we're being hyperbolic. It's not. It's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. This is real, and we're in the early stages of it here. So if you can see these, I think the Why We Fight series. At one point, they were on Netflix, and then there's kind of a follow up to it. There are a number of films made by the top directors in the golden age of Hollywood: Frank Capra, Billy Wilder, John Ford. I can't think of her name. John Huston,
Mhm.
Angelica Houston's father, who was a classic Western director and a film noir director. So there's a follow-up series of these people actually went to combat zones and filmed it and made a movie about what was going on in those combat zones. So this is a really interesting look at how they used mass media to battle this. And, they're inspirational, but they're also very educational. They teach people why you've got to stand up and why you have to take risks and why you have to put yourself out there to stop this. And this is the one I want you to watch. These are the things that are really important in understanding why you have to resist all this. You can't. There's a guy out there that's written a book, and I can't think of his name, but it's called the most important principle in it. It was recently published. Is don't obey in advance. Don't do what they want you to without a fight.
Mhm.
And boy, in my old stomping grounds, academia, they are giving up in advance a lot. The president of the University of Virginia just resigned
Mm.
because the Trump administration threatened them over DEI.
Mm.
Um, some places like Harvard have stood up and said, "Yeah, we're older than the United States. We don't care."
Yeah. I don't know how long Harvard can last, though. They're getting so
Well, let me tell you this: Harvard, the net worth of Harvard alumni is $5 trillion. And Harvard has some of the best lawyers in the world, which are alumni.
Sure.
I'm not so worried about Harvard. Harvard is 140 years older than America. I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I hope so.
But you can't obey in advance. You can't give in to hopelessness. You can't not stand up and fight here. Not standing up and fighting these ideas is the reason why we're here now. And you watch these series, Why We Fight, and you'll see why I'm saying this. You just will. You'll get it.
So I should say we each had a top 10 list when we did this, and we flipped a coin. Mark and I flipped a coin to see who would get the number one. So I won the coin flip, and talking about for a couple of things. You talk about not giving up. This is a good movie. Now I'm going even more lowbrow than I did with the last one when I said Star Trek. But but the fact is that in a time like this, when fascism has become a real thing, sometimes what you need to see more than anything else is Captain America punching Nazis in the face.
Yes, you know how big a Captain America fan I am.
So my number one is Captain America, the First Avenger. It's the origin story. It's the World War II story. It has lots of Captain America punching people in the face. I won't even say much about this movie,
Nope.
except to also say that Captain America is he's probably somewhat of a cipher, but not if you look in the comics, not if you look in the way the movies have gone.
Yeah.
He is a representation of what we want America to be.
He is ideal America.
Yeah,
Damn straight.
yeah. So you want to see some uplifting, hopeful cinema, watch Captain America punch Nazis in the face.
See that this is great for this particular purpose. It's not my favorite Captain America movie, but
No, mine
by
either.
God, by God, if you want to stand up and understand what we should be doing, this is the movie. Good one, John. That's a great choice to end up on.
All right, folks. Well, hope you enjoyed this. It's a lot to go through, but I think it was all worthwhile, and I think it's a pretty eclectic list, which is always a good thing, in my opinion.
They're all up for the challenge. Our listeners are tough cookies. They're committed to what they're doing. We have faith in them. You'll make it
Absolutely.
through. And
Absolutely.
you'll make it through this too.
Right on.
No, you will. You'll make it through this. We might have to do some stuff that we never thought we'd ever have to do, but we're going to get through it. That's all there is to it. It's, that's what America's about. We persist.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's all you got to do. You've got to persist. Use whatever you can to persist, but you have to persist.
Yeah. And on that note, folks, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, as always, for listening. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Now, John, I'm going to go from here to watch Captain America, the First Avenger.
All right on.
I'm not kidding. I'm going to watch it right now.
All right. Maybe I will too. All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Our theme music is by Christopher Piatek.